You know, the greatest strategic failure in marketing is something called the quantum leap delusion. It's this belief that growth is one single explosive event you can just force into existence. But that ignores a simple fact. Massive traffic is actually the result of tiny 1% improvements that are compounded over time. For years, we've all been sold this myth of overnight success, right? The big break that changes everything. Well, today, we're going to tear that myth apart and replace it with a powerful, systematic approach to growth that actually works. This one idea, it's the root of so much wasted effort, so much wasted capital. We see a company that seems to just explode out of nowhere, and we call it viral. And then what do? We chase that same lightning in a bottle, convinced that one perfect campaign is going to be our quantum leap. But here's the truth. Chasing a massive spike in traffic without a solid foundation to capture and grow that energy, that's just the fastest way to burn out. It's a dangerous distraction from the real work of building something that lasts. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. It's two completely different mindsets. On one side, you've got the quantum leap. It's fragile, like a house of cards, and it's always dependent on that next temporary high. It's basically an illusion. But on the other side, you have 1% compounding. This is a system-based reality that engineers inevitable growth. It's not about building something that might just fall over. It's about architecting an empire. The problem is our brains are just hardwired to think in straight lines. We dramatically underestimate the power of a small, consistent input over a long period of time. So, here's our roadmap for this explainer. First, we're going to deconstruct the delusion of the quantum leap. Then we'll look at the real-world crisis that actually forced this new way of thinking into existence. We'll unpack the mechanics of the Flywheel engine itself, explore the deep psychology that makes it so powerful, and then give you a clear framework for building your own. And finally, we'll see how this shifts your brand from being just a choice to being a destiny. All right, section 1, the quantum leap delusion. Now, here's the paradox. The more aggressively you chase a massive viral spike, the more you ignore the fundamental math that actually builds sustainable traffic and dominant brands. We're all conditioned to look for that silver bullet, but we need to start looking for the flywheel instead. And it all begins with a pretty simple question. So think about this for a second. Forget the massive product launches. Forget the huge ad spends. What if you just made a tiny, almost unnoticeable 1% improvement every single day? What do you think the result would be? Our linear thinking brains might guess, 3 or 4 times better? Maybe a 365% improvement? But this is where our intuition completely fails us, and the math takes over. The answer isn't 365% better. It's 37.78 times better. Let that sink in. Nearly 38 times the capability, the efficiency, the output, all from a simple 1% daily discipline. This is the mathematical core of growth rate compounding. It's an exponential curve that's hiding in plain sight. And trust me, once you see it, you can't unsee it. So this isn't just some neat mathematical concept. It's a battle-tested strategy that was forged in the fire of a real market crisis. This powerful idea stopped being a theory and became an absolute necessity for survival. So back in the late 2010s, a quiet crisis started to bubble up. The cost to acquire a customer, your CAC, especially through the big ad platforms, began to just skyrocket. Companies found themselves on this horrible treadmill where they had to spend more and more money just to stay in the same place. They were essentially renting their customers, buying growth instead of owning it. And this kind of soulless growth model was a huge liability. Investors noticed. The focus shifted away from vanity metrics like total traffic to the hard data of efficiency scores. And just like that, the ability to grow organically wasn't a nice-to-have anymore, it was the only path forward. The new discipline of compounding growth was born out of pure necessity. Okay, so if the old method of just buying growth broke down, what replaced it? Well, that brings us to section 3, the compounding flywheel engine. We're going to move past the theory now and deconstruct the actual machine that powers this inevitable self-perpetuating growth. The central concept here is the flywheel multiplier. For decades, marketing was always visualized as this linear funnel, right? You pour leads in the top, and hopefully some customers trickle out the bottom, with leaks all the way down. The flywheel just completely replaces that broken model. It's not a one-way street, it's a cyclical, self-reinforcing loop. The energy you put into it doesn't leak out, it actually adds to the momentum, making the wheel spin faster and faster with every single rotation. And this engine turns on 3 core loops. First up is the acquisition loop. This is where the actions of your current users, like sharing content or inviting friends, directly bring in new users. Second, you have the engagement loop. The more a person uses your product, the more valuable it becomes to them. They're investing their time, their data, and that investment makes it way harder to leave. And third, the reinvestment loop. All the data, insights, and profit you generate are systematically fed back into the system to improve the product and accelerate the other 2 loops. You see, each part powers the next. The day-to-day work of managing the system is all about relentless small improvements. It's not about grand gestures or big campaigns. It's about using automation and data to find and fix these tiny points of friction, what we call efficiency leaks. So if your sign-up flow has a 2% drop-off rate, you don't just accept it, you fix it. Why? Because that 2% doesn't just represent lost users today, it represents a compounded loss of momentum forever. The whole goal is to turn these tiny, relentless fixes into massive compounded gains. So we've looked at the math, we've looked at the mechanics, but the reason this engine works so powerfully is because it plugs directly into some really deep-seated human psychology. Let's move to section 4 and see how this system leverages the way our brains are wired. The progress principle is really the core human driver here. Biologically, we are all just wired to seek out and respond to small, consistent signs of progress. A compounding system is basically a machine that generates these small wins. When a user sees a product constantly improving, getting just a little bit better every single time they use it, it provides this powerful feeling of momentum. And that feeling deactivates our natural skepticism. It's no longer a desperate sales pitch. It's a rising tide of value that feels natural and, frankly, inevitable. So the system pulls on 3 key psychological levers. First, the network effect. Every new user makes the experience more valuable for all the existing users. If you leave, you're losing the value that you helped create. Second, predictable progress. In a chaotic market, a system that you know is reliably improving offers a sense of psychological safety. It becomes the trusted, logical choice. And finally, all of this creates what we call inevitable momentum. The growth just feels organic and earned, pulling people in rather than trying to push them through some sales process. Okay, so we understand the why and the how. Now for the really practical application. Let's dive into section 5, architecting your velocity. This is the 4-step blueprint for taking these principles and actually building your own growth engine. This framework is incredibly disciplined and focused. Step 1, define your North Star metric. You have to isolate the single most important variable that you are trying to compound. Is it daily active users? Is it number of projects created? Get super specific. Step 2, isolate the 1% levers. Stop trying to fix the marketing and start obsessing over those tiny micro improvements. Step 3, engineer the viral hook. The referral mechanism can't be some afterthought. It has to be built into the core utility of the product itself. And finally, step 4, automate the reinvestment. Design the system to use the energy it generates to automatically improve itself. And when you adopt this framework, you fundamentally shift your whole identity. You stop being a marketer in the traditional sense, someone who just runs campaigns. You become an architect of velocity. Your job is no longer to create these little spikes of attention, but to design, build, and tune a system that generates its own unstoppable momentum. And this brings us to our final and, I think, most important section. This really captures the core philosophical insight of this entire model, moving from choice to destiny. This final comparison really says it all. The old mindset of the linear funnel pushes people, which makes your brand just one choice among many others. The new mindset, the compounding flywheel, pulls people toward ever-increasing value, making your brand feel like a destiny. It becomes the only logical ecosystem to be a part of. Ultimately, this is a fusion of hard data and human psychology. It recognizes that in a world that is obsessed with fleeting viral moments and temporary spikes, the only thing that truly endures, the only thing that actually builds an empire, is tiny, relentless discipline. It's that commitment to the 1% improvement day after day that separates the house of cards from the fortress. And that's the final, crucial takeaway I want to leave you with. This kind of exponential growth isn't something you just stumble into. It is not luck, and it isn't some secret you're born with. It's a system. It's a discipline. It's a skill set that has to be studied, practiced, and mastered. Growth isn't linear. It's learned.